What a short conversation. My apologies. But we want to make sure that we stick tight to the agenda. And I am so excited to be able to introduce you to Lisa Snider. Could we just get Lisa up on screen, please?
Hi, everyone. I just want to check my sound as well.
Hi, Lisa. We can hear you. We can't see you on our screen yet. Oh, there you are.
Hey, hi, everybody.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey.
So for 24 years, Lisa's passion in life has been to make digital world more accessible for people with disabilities. She has done this work in different settings and contexts as a web developer, librarian, activist, and since 2016 as an accessibility consultant. She has worked in a wide variety of North American organizations, as well as governments and businesses such as the Manitoba Accessibility Office, the Government of Nova Scotia, and the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. As the Vice Chair of the Accessible Canada Act, design and delivery of accessible programs and services specifically around the technical committee, Lisa is also a member of the Federal Accessible and Equitable Artificial Intelligence Systems technical committee. So that sounds very technical, and I'm just going to turn it right over to my colleague Lisa. Please go ahead, Lisa.
Great. Thanks so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, those federal names. I'm basically on 3 federal committees, and I'm the vice chair of Nova Scotia's Goods and Services Standard Development Committee. Very long names, and we don't want to waste time on them. So thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Oh, I so wanted to be there in person. Newfoundland and Labrador is my favorite spot on earth. And I came there first in 2019. I got on the plane to go there, and I knew I wouldn't have come back if it wasn't for my cats. So my cats made me come back. So I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today. I had to dog sit my friends' dogs. So they're lovely dogs, and I like my friends. So I had to give up Newfoundland, but I'm pleased to be here today to talk with you. So I'm just going to put my my slideshow up here, and if you can't see it, please let me know in voice. Sounds like you can see it. So thank you for inviting me here today, and thanks to Kathy and Empower and Inclusion Newfoundland for the invite. Today, I'm going to talk about digital accessibility and technology. So not just technology, but also accessibility. And I know I'm between you and lunch, so I'm going to try to be as entertaining as I can. So before I begin, I just want to say that I'm in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. As well, I recognize the 400 years of histories and contributions of the African and Black Nova Scotian people and communities. And here I've got a picture of the $10 bill with Nova Scotia's own Viola Desmond, who fought racism and was just an amazing person before Rosa Parks got on the bus in the US. And so before I start, I just want to highlight 2 important notes. First, I geared this towards employers and people in human resources, but if you're in any other setting, it's okay. All of this is for you. So all of the tips I give, everything I talk about can be used by anyone. As well, today I'm going to focus on the digital world. So think about websites, documents, audio, video, email, even robots, right? All of that is digital. So first, I'm going to talk about my first tip, which is a general tip, and that's to audit digital materials. So many people who I've worked with over the years, and I know Kathy at Empower also does this work, many people don't know how inaccessible their digital materials are for people with disabilities. And this has been my specialty for over 24 years. And I find that if I ask a person, hey, have you ever been in an accessible washroom? And they go, yeah. Have you ever seen like a more accessible doorway? Yeah, I have. Now, they don't know the ins and outs of that, whether it's really accessible, but they've got some frame of reference to go on. And I find with digital materials that that's different because often people won't know how inaccessible their documents, websites, apps, whatever it is, are for people with different disabilities. So, a really good thing to start with is auditing by people with disabilities. So, this is crucial because auditors with disabilities are the experts. Now, does one person who's blind or deafblind represent everybody who's blind or deafblind? No, but it at least gives you a start. So many auditors with disabilities will be using different technologies, and I'll discuss three of those today, but others won't. Pardon me. I work with an auditor who has ADHD and a panic disorder. They don't use any technologies. They just pull up their computer and off they go. So remember, don't always focus on those technologies. Very important. But also get auditors who may have invisible, visible disabilities, like really try to get a range of people. I myself, I'm a person with multiple disabilities and I have invisible disabilities. And I got a severe one 3 years ago and another severe one about a year ago. And boy, whoo, does it change life. So some people who have disabilities use magnification software. So if you have a device, a tablet, a computer, you usually have magnification built in, even to your iPhone or Android phone. And many people have to magnify the screen or parts of it for various reasons. But people who have low vision often use magnification. I myself have to use it. If you send me an email that has italics in it and your name is Lillian with two L's and I don't even know how many I's, I have to use magnification. And my glasses, like I can see without my glasses. So my vision's pretty good. So many of us use this. Keep it in mind. As well, voice recognition or control software. So this is software where you're using your voice for everything that you're trying to do or just some things. I myself use this. So in mid 2021, I almost lost the use of my hands. Wasn't fun. And I can't get great health care in Nova Scotia. Still can't. And I thought, okay, well, I can use voice control software, right? And so since then, if I write a long text, a long email, social media post, anything like that, I have to use voice. I've got my hands back, but I still use voice control or voice dictation on my iPhone. And I can tell you that sometimes I text friends and they're like, what are you saying? I have no idea. It's still flawed, this software. So, you have to be very careful in what you say, but it's a game changer. Like for people without arms or hands, it can be a game changer. And also, it's interesting. In the last week, I was in an Accessibility Standards Canada, a different project, um, a focus group, and two people who are blind said, "Yeah, I use this as well, and I have the exact same issues with it that I do." So keep this in mind that people are coming to your digital materials with different digital technologies. Last one I'm going to talk about, screen reader software. So if I'm blind, deafblind, or have low vision, and I don't have usable sight, how do I interact with our digital world, right? Think about it, even coffee makers have digital screens today. So if you're using a computer, a device, iPhone, Android phone, how do you use it? Well, a very smart person about, oh, geez, it's been over 40 years now, developed this software and it's called screen reader software. And if things are accessible, the computer, the apps on the computer, the programs, the website, the documents, the email that you're sending. If those are accessible, this software can read it. So what it does is it accesses it, it's built in, okay, to computers and devices, and it translates what's it seeing into speech or text or braille. So I've worked with an auditor who's deaf-blind. They use a screen reader software on all of their devices, and then they plug in their braille device, and the two talk to each other. It's groundbreaking, right? It's game-changing software. And those of you out there who use it, you know this. So if you have a Mac or an iPhone, VoiceOver screen reader is built in. If you have an Android phone, TalkBack is built in. If you have a Windows PC, narrator's built in. You can put on a PC a free software called NVDA, or you can buy what I consider the gold standard of screen readers because it's been extremely expensive. And guess what? I've lived in many provinces, and some provinces don't pay for it, neither do major organizations. It's very inequitable across Canada. You can buy Jaws, like the movie, like the shark. Jaws, I think it's the gold standard because it's been so expensive and people have paid for it over the years. So those are just 3 examples of digital technology that people can be using when they access your digital materials like websites, documents, and video, that sort of thing. And auditors are crucial because they tell you the story about what is going on. And I know Kathy out there from Empower, Kathy does a lot of auditing in her work. They tell you the story. You may not know. You may have not ever met somebody who's deaf-blind, right? So those auditors can tell you what's going on. Then you have to figure out how to remove those barriers. So try to get as many auditors as you can, but pay people, please. I paid my auditors $50 an hour. Okay, they got more than me. Actually, in one contract, they got everything because they did such great work. Pay people, pay them with cookies, pay them with a t-shirt, maybe your employees have disabilities. And you go to them and say, hey, is this accessible? Well, you're doing a good deed, I've got to tell you, but please give them something in return because it's very important to have payment in some way with this work, even if it's just time off. Everybody appreciates time off, right? Take a half day here, and all of us, especially at this time of year in the Maritimes, I know we appreciate that. If it's not snowing, we never know at this time of year. So that's my first tip, quite general, right? My second tip is also general, to use resources. What do I mean by that? So you can pay, consultants, organizations to help you out. Awesome. But there's also free resources out there that you can use if you haven't accessed them before. So provincial governments across Canada, many of them have developed their accessibility acts. And Ontario and Manitoba, Ontario was first, Manitoba was second, Nova Scotia was third. And particularly with Ontario and Manitoba, they've really developed their acts and the standards under them. Standards can include the employment standard. Many of you might have heard of that. Information and communications, customer service, or goods and services. Those of you in Newfoundland, hey, you've got a great new Accessibility Act, and they're starting to develop those standards. So let me give you an example. So I do a lot of work with the Manitoba Accessibility Office, and I develop legislation in Manitoba. So their website has their standards. Okay, now your province may have different ones, but on this website, they give you free resources, right? Make use of them. So here we've got the Accessible Customer Service Standard. And when you scroll down the screen, you'll see a ton of free resources. So, event planning checklist, tips for employees on accessible customer service. A ton of information is here for you, free, right? So, yeah, if you've got the budget to spend money, awesome. Go to your local organizations, hire a consultant, do that. But also, you've got some great free resources. Now, I've got to tell you, this is the first time in over 24 years that I've been working in accessibility that I've ever pitched anything I've done, anything in a talk. Never done it. But today I can do it. What I did was I got 2 grants over the pandemic. I don't remember what years, don't ask me. Pandemic. And I was able to do a survey of people with disabilities in Manitoba and Nova Scotia. And I asked people with disabilities and said, hey, what barriers have you found with online businesses? Okay, like businesses online. What have you found? And what have they done well? I analyzed the survey data for both of those surveys, and then I produced guides for each of those provinces. So I've got the quick start guide to digital accessibility for Manitoba businesses, and I've got the quick start guide to digital accessibility for Nova Scotia businesses. They're both slightly different. I've never talked about anything free. I've only done a few free things in my career because I'm always busy with paid work, right? This gave me the opportunity to give back, right? To offer for free. So on my website, accesschangeseverything.com, if you go to the projects section, you'll see the Manitoba survey and then the Nova Scotia survey. And why I'm talking to you about these is they're free. They've got it, they're both of them are full of great tips. Okay, way more than I can talk about today. And they're free. Did I mention that? So, and what I did was I took the survey data and developed the tips from what people told me. This is lived experience, first voice, along with my own experience, lived experience as a person with disabilities, and I put it all together. And I've rarely been able to offer free stuff. Here it is. And like I say, this is very weird for me because in over 24 years, I've never done this. But the people are giving you what you need to know. So if you can't audit right away, download these things, take a look and see what people are saying. The quotes in there, if those quotes don't impact you, then nothing will, because those quotes have impacted me even after 24 years of doing this. So in these documents, what I did was today I thought I'm going to share 4 free tips for you today. Different ones than you've seen on the screen that they've provided in the breaks. So in this section, I'm going to get more specific and narrow. These are digital accessibility tips that you can use right now, absolutely right now, and they're pretty easy. Tip 1, when you're making a document, an email, a website, always try to start with a regular sans serif font like Arial or Calibri. It's the round font, right? Times New Roman is very square. That's my square voice. You want to try to use a sans serif font to start. Now, does every single person with a disability or any single person like this font? No, no, not at all. But the majority of people can read it on a digital screen. And that's the key. And now that I'm also doing my PhD, and now I've been able to access academic studies, and the sans serif font still edges out the square Times New Roman kind of font. So try that. Also, when you're doing up a PowerPoint, if you've got Sight, as you've seen here today, or a document, start with a font size of 12 point or above. So if you get an email from me, it's going to be 14 point. And the reason is when I started to work with a whole bunch of people who have low vision, they were like, no, your email should be 14 point. Bingo. That was 8 years ago. Now my emails are 14 point. And I'll sometimes do documents that way too. It just depends. So if you've got a website, 100% or above. Okay, very important. And here's a quote from the Nova Scotia survey. There is often an issue of font size and type. And I love this font because I love this quote because I've been saying this for over 24 years. Okay. And I'm like, oh, finally, people are backing me up. So this is an easy thing to do, right? Very easy. The second tip, also easy. So if you have video, not everybody can see or hear the video, right? I might be blind or have low vision or be deaf-blind, or I may be deaf or hard of hearing. So for people who can't hear the video or can't hear it well, or maybe they're in a subway station, or maybe they're somebody who's learning English as an additional language, provide captions in your videos. Absolutely crucial for all of us. I'll give you an example. When I lived in Winnipeg and I took the buses downtown, and that was a few years ago, I liked to see what was going on around me because my route was always very interesting. I never listened to the sound. I always looked at the captions because I could dart my eyes up and see what was going on and then look at the captions. So here's a tip if you don't know this already. YouTube does captioning for free. Awesome, right? Free. Did I mention free? So when you put up videos on YouTube, the only thing you have to do is check the captioning because believe it or not, I've seen dirty words in there that I can't say in public. So you gotta check them. And in the YouTube interface behind in the admin area, you can make changes. Awesome, free captioning. So the great part about captioning is many people can use it. I've seen 5 studies, and not academic ones, just ones out in the mainstream, that say that many people use these. Gen Z use them, millennials use them more than other generations. And here's a quote from the Nova Scotia survey. Captioning for the visually impaired, that's the term they used, is needed. It means feeling included and valued in mainstream society. So the key here is with everything accessibility, it's not just an inconvenience when you're working with digital materials. It actually can get at the soul of a person not feeling like they belong. And the quotes were just amazing and awesome. Another tip I want to share with you is color contrast. So here, try to use a strong color contrast for your text and background on your PowerPoint slides, on your Word document, your website, your emails, anything with text and background. Now, today, if you've got sight, you can see that I've got a white background with black text, okay? Very strong, because I never know how light it's going to be. Do we have sunshine today? Don't we? I don't know. So you don't have to use black and white all the time. Don't worry about that. You can use color, but the key is to check that color. And the wonderful part is here, free. We have free color contrast analyzers, color contrast checkers, free on the internet. Just go to Google, type in color contrast analyzer or color contrast accessibility checker. And my last count was almost 30 of them, at least, if not more. So there are tons out there that they say you either pass or fail, right? So the thing is, though, you got to know if you pass, awesome, use the checkers. But just know that doesn't apply to every single person. You will have some people that will come to you and go, oh, my auditor who has low vision and me, if you use light gray on a white background, I'm going to fail you out of the room, as is my auditor with low vision. Very difficult to read, even though it passes. Okay, but use the checkers. They're free. They're there. So color combinations are really, really important, right? And these checkers, if you fail, you definitely have to choose another color combination, right, that works. Here's a great quote from the Nova Scotia survey. Color combinations that are difficult to read are a barrier. They may cause migraines. This person had, I believe, from what I could tell, anonymous survey, but I think they had a head injury and had migraines, and certain color combinations made their migraines worse. I get 3 types of migraines. Those of you out there who have them, you can imagine the pain that that causes. My next tip, slightly different. Now I'm going a bit more general. My next tip is to provide human support in different ways, by email, through phone, and in person. So let's put this in an employment setting, okay? If I'm applying for if I'm applying for a job with you, or if I'm trying to access information in-house, okay, I may experience major barriers. Okay, let me give you an example. I put in a proposal almost 2 years now. It was like a job application, right? Same thing. And I put it in, and um, I needed to ask human resource. It was through human resources. It was kind of a weird thing. And I needed to ask them a question because I had had a spinal injury happen 3 years ago. And I have a special chair that I'm sitting in. And if I'm at a client's office now, unlike before this disability, I could sit in their chairs for 18 million days. It didn't matter. Now I can't. So I needed to ask them, do I have to be there and do I have to sit in your chairs? Because if I do, I can't apply. So they had an email on there. And I thought, oh, great, I can ask the question. They never got back to me because human resources is up to their eyeballs in work, right? They don't have time because they get a lot of spam and they get a lot of stuff. But this question was crucial and I couldn't reach them because of course they're not going to put their phone number on there, right? Because you know who's going to call them. And in person, they were in a different province. So there I experienced a major barrier and I couldn't apply. So think about it in terms of doing a job application and having the same thing happen. So we've got one layer of barrier there. Then what if you've got a chat feature on your website for people who have questions about job applications? Well, maybe it's powered by artificial intelligence. Okay, I'm on the Federal Artificial Intelligence Committee. What if it's not powered by a human? And what if that piece is not accessible to me? Because maybe I'm using a screen reader and I'm blind, deafblind, or have low vision. What if I can't do something with your job application, plus I can't talk to your robot, right? What next? I need human support. And that's why I call it human support, not robot support. It's crucial. It's absolutely crucial because there I could have experienced 2 barriers, right? Now, if I can get to your human support, here's the last tip. And I'm going to skip over this. The last tip is awareness in communications. So I go over, okay, I need to talk to a human. So I go to a human, and if the human isn't aware of even the basics of disability and accessibility in communication, by phone, by email, in person, layer 3. And do you know how mad I'm getting by this point, even if I don't have a temper? It's not good, right? So the key here is, and my personal view, I've worked with a lot of legislation, a ton. I've done work as a consultant for eons and accessibility work. Awareness is the key for everything. Everything. It starts with awareness. And I know like organizations like Kathy's in Newfoundland, they offer awareness training, other people do as well, consultants. Any way you can get it, free or paid, do it. It's worth it and it's important. And here, consider intersecting identities. And what I mean by that is, so I've tried to apply for your job. I can't work the application because let's say I'm a blind African Nova Scotian. Okay, I'm an African Nova Scotian and I'm blind. And I can't work your job application interface. I go to the chat bot. It's not accessible to my screen reader. Okay. Maybe you're using voice control. It's not accessible. So I contact or I go in, let's say, to get human support. I go into your business and I say, hey, I need help. Well, then you can layer on, sometimes in Canada, racism, homophobia, all that sort of fun stuff that isn't fun. Okay? Then there's another layer. And those layers are not the kind of layer cake you want. Okay? You want the kind of layer cake that's fun and chocolate and good, right? So awareness is key, absolutely key. So keep that in mind. And here's an awareness quote from someone. An example of a barrier is being required or asked to call, right? Oh, just call. This is frustrating when you know many are never expecting to have to communicate with somebody who has a speech impediment, which is just another type of accent. And if you've never experienced that, right? Like if you've never like been in a meeting or picked up the phone and say, hey, how can I help you? Somebody who has a speech disability, that's the term I use, they used a different term, that can be a frustrating and tough experience for both people, right? So that's where the awareness comes in, right? It's really, really important. So finally, impact of digital barriers. So here, I just want to give you two quotes. I'm going to skip one of them. I just wanted to say here that lowering barriers is crucial. It's not just an inconvenience for people, it can affect us to our soul. Here's a great quote. When encountering barriers that I experience, or when encountering barriers, I experience deep frustration. It makes my depression worse. It means I give up and just don't get to do or use the service. Excluded from things I would like to do, but simply can't get the level of information help I need. Says it all, really says it all. And the last quote I'm going to use is this one. I often have to degrade my independence by asking someone to assist me with making calls. I should not have to do so, right? So keep this in mind because it gets to the root of us. And over the last 3 years, I'm experiencing loss of independence. And I can tell you, some people can bounce back and some people can't. It's a very difficult thing to do. So keep that in mind. So to conclude, try applying just one of the accessibility tips I've mentioned today, right? Because making digital materials accessible can seem really overwhelming, but just start with one thing, even just font type, because you're changing the world for one person. Change a color combination, you're changing the world for one person. And the last thing I want to say is that one small change makes a huge difference. You take down barriers, not me, you do. You make the difference. And just remember that, it's very important. A quote before I end, Nelson Mandela said, we can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands to make a difference. It's in your hands. You can do it. So I hope that you've at least got one tip out of this today and that I can help. So does anybody have any questions before you go to lunch?
Thank you so much, Lisa. That's a very powerful presentation. I've had people ask about getting access to it and stuff. So does anybody have any questions? We have about 10 minutes before our chicken fajitas are ready to go. Anybody have any questions?
I didn't want to run long because chicken fajitas are really good.
There's a question in the room. Online. Run.
Yes, so there is a comment there's many things happening. So from Annette, plus some neurodiverse people do not like using or cannot use the telephone. Also another question from Trisha saying, do you have a preferred color contrast checker that you use?
I do. There's one that's really great. You can use it in your office environment because it's been there for many years. It's called the Color Contrast Analyzer. It's by a company. They changed their name and It's T as in Tom, P as in Peter, G as in giraffe, I as in icicle. And they made a color contrast analyzer. You can download it to Mac or PC. I use both, and it's free. Hey, free again. And it's really great. You can check your documents. Anything that you can access on your screen, you can check. That's the one I prefer.
Great.
Great
Thank you so
question.
much. Last question from Chad Kearney. So this is a question from the last panel. I'm just going to bring you over. So he asked, do you notice that deaf and hard of hearing have more trouble getting jobs because they would ask for interpreter, and it would be inconvenient for the manager to do the staff meetings and waiting on the interpreters to arrive? Sorry.
Yeah, and actually I can talk to that because I've been part of things where we've had one or more people who are deaf there or hard of hearing who have needed interpreters, and it can be quite difficult. I always advocate for people who are deaf. I was in Winnipeg for about 5 years, almost 6 years, and the deaf community, I learned a lot there, more than any other place I've ever lived. And I learned a lot. And I learned that a lot of, like I learned a lot about hearing loops and different things, but I also then understood more about sign language and how it's a language. It's not just, oh, it's sign language. No, it can be your first language. So I always advocate now, and I've gotten in trouble for that sometimes, but I always advocate for that. And I have canceled meetings when a sign language interpreter wasn't found. Sometimes I can't because the meetings aren't mine, but I have done it. So yeah, it can be tough.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Last comment from Annette. Microsoft 365 has a lot of accessibility features built in.
Yes, thank you, Annette, for mentioning that. So if you have, what is it, Office 2019 and above, even 2016, but if you can get the newer versions of Office, I do some work with Microsoft. I did more work before, but I'm on the Workplace Advisory Council, and they have improved a lot, not only the software. Okay, so for if you use a screen reader, the software is going to be better. It's not perfect, but it's going to be better to use. And also they've improved hugely their accessibility features. So if you go into Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, other Office products, you will see an accessibility checker there. Now, it's a great tool to use. Just know it only checks for about 30% of accessibility barriers in those digital materials. But it's an excellent start, and I'm really glad you mentioned that, Annette. Thank you so much. Great tip to start with, for sure.
That's all
Thanks,
from the chat.
Romina, for those online questions, and thanks to the participants who are in our virtual space. Anybody else in the room have questions? I see a hand down the back. Sherry's got it. Sherry's coming to you, Paul.
Hey, if you can,
Hi.
hi there.
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Paul Walsh. You mentioned you live in Nova Scotia, and then you brought up the new enabling accessibility legislation here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm just wondering if you could comment on where your province is around accessibility and similar things. I just saw your reaction, so I'm looking forward to the answer.
No, it's very interesting. I've been working with clients in Nova Scotia since 2017. The Maritimes in general, I've lived in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. I want to live in Newfoundland, but it ain't going to happen, which is sad. It's my favorite province. And PEI are all very similar. We're all smaller. We have lower budgets, and we have history like nobody else, right? We've got, we're old. Let's put it that way. So we do have challenges here. But I have to say, in Nova Scotia, I've got to tell you, I've been impressed since day one, and not just because I'm here. the government put out funding very early with 2 grant programs. The government, because I've worked with government people here, was very quick to work on accessibility before even the standards came out. So, and I've been working with municipalities. I've worked with various people here, a ton of people, I think more than any other province. So I have to say, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, well, Cape Breton for sure, in Nova Scotia, they have connections. And I saw in Newfoundland as well when I was there. I think they're both very similar in that I see that like Newfoundland has developed its legislation and it's going really quick into the standards. I see a lot of passion there at government levels and at every level, government and everybody in between. And there are a lot of similarities from what I'm seeing. And it thrills me because other provinces, I won't name the ones, some of them are not in the same boat. And it's hard because legislation can help us. It's not the savior for all of us by any means, but it helps us because it just gets more awareness out there. In my view, legislation is awareness. If you're wanting it to change things tomorrow, it's not going to, but it's awareness getting out there. So I truly think that Nova Scotia and Newfoundland have been the leaders, in my personal view. PEI is doing a bit, New Brunswick's doing a bit, but different factors there. So I gotta give a shout out to those of you in Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as other people here in Nova Scotia. Our buildings are tougher. The physical accessibility, way harder, because how do you deal with a building built in 1830, and who has the money to do that retrofit? And in that area, I think that's been the difficulty in our provinces.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. And that concludes our session for now, and we are about to go for lunch.